Hey guys, it's Rachel. It's time for Thursday. I do apologise for the location of my video. I'm in my bathroom. The lighting is just really difficult to get, and my webcam's broken. And I'm using somebody else's webcam, and the light is just really bad. It's gone dark outside, so I'm sat in my bathroom. I know Ariel didn't get her video up yesterday. I know she's made it, so I'm sure she'll hopefully get it up at some point this week. She was having a real technology issue, which is unlike Ariel, because normally technology is on her side, but obviously yesterday it wasn't. I came up with a rota this week, well, for the month really, and I decided that we would take a look at identity. This week we were going to look at identity and sexuality. Next week we were going to look at how things such as emotional abuse, well, obviously other physical sexual abuse, but predominantly emotional abuse can impact how you see yourself, how you feel towards yourself. And the week after that, we were going to look at the differences that therapy can help us with in terms of finding out who we really are and having somebody to talk to. And then we were going to end the rota by just having a general discussion about kind of finding yourself, recovery in terms of building up who you are again, not necessarily reinventing who you are, but after illness, finding out who you are again and what matters to you and the things that make you you. But this week we're going to talk about sexuality. Some of the issues I wanted to look at were obviously how difficult it is and can be to understand our own sexuality. I was also going to discuss issues around coming out actually to ourselves and being honest with ourselves, but also how to talk to our families about that, the kind of difficulties and the worries that some of that might cause for us, and then how, if we can be honest with ourselves and treat ourselves about our sexuality, how much that can help us with being who we are, certainly in recovery, but also just as a general person out there, in terms of sexuality is something that can be really, really difficult. And when it's been part of your recovery and you've had issues, how it can be to come to terms with some of that. I know that I've made a lot of blog posts, and I think we've made some videos on sexuality, but I don't really think as many as maybe we think we have, and it is a topic that's kind of around at the moment. I know there's been some television programs that have touched on it. I know that Natasha was involved with got one, Natasha's Body Gossip, and they were discussing sexuality, we were discussing his sexuality and his coming out, and also he met with a young girl called Emily who was talking about realising at the age, I think she was 14, that she was gay and how difficult that's been, or how to feel confident with that. When you talk to people about sexuality, some of them know from a young age whether they're gay or not, and other people aren't sure, and other people only know later in life. For myself, it was only something that really became clear to me as I went through recovery. I always kind of joke about not really having an adolescence. I didn't really struggle through my adolescence, and I kind of always say that I had my adolescence later, which was when I got poorly when I was 19. There was a lot of shifts in discovering who I was. I'd only really began to know who I was up until kind of the age of 17, really. It's those early days when you're sort of learning about who you are, what you stand for, the things you enjoy, the things you don't enjoy, the kind of person that you are. And it's only really been through recovery, through a huge degree of self-acceptance, that has helped me understand who I am today. And that person happens to be somebody who is involved in a relationship with another woman. And whilst there's been times when I've spoken about that and questioned some of that, a big part of the process of that has just been about accepting that that's part of who I am, and that I don't necessarily need to explore it further and think that that is what it is, and that I have been involved with other women over the past kind of 5, 6, 7 years, if not longer. And as I say, that's only something I realised into my 20s, really. It wasn't something I thought about too much when I was younger. that isn't to say that those feelings were not necessarily there. I think that what life has taught me, and I'm 30 now, that you have to be who you are. And if I'm somebody who falls in love with a woman, then I'm somebody who falls in love with a woman. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Of course, it is more complicated than that, because depending on who we are, where we are, the environment that we're in, it can be very difficult to come to terms with sexuality. I think whether you're male or female, that can be very, very difficult. My whole understanding of bisexuality and even the transgender community is more limited. I don't even know that much about kind of, the lesbian, gay community either. I think that with regards to those types of things, you're either kind of actively involved in it, you maybe do a little bit or maybe not at all. I'm not somebody who's actively involved in that community. I don't particularly know that many people who are involved, who are gay or lesbian. I have found other people who are like that, in being honest myself, and other people feeling that they can talk to me. And out of that, some of my closest friends have kind of realised their own sexuality and been able to talk, and it's actually been nice to have other people to talk to about that. With regards to self-acceptance, it was something that initially made me question who I was. A part of me was comfortable enough in myself at that point that I didn't really care. It didn't really have to define who I was, and it was just what I was. A number of people might find that that is the situation for them, that it is just something that it is, and they don't need to think about it much more than that, in terms of their own self-acceptance. For me, I think I did question it, because obviously I questioned whether I was bisexual or not. I still don't really use a label on myself. I have been involved with men before, and that was something that I was primarily involved in when I was younger and when I was growing up. So as to whether that means that I am bisexual, I don't know. And as I said, to me, a label doesn't matter. To some people, that label actually helps them. And I often view it the same as kind of diagnosis in illness. For me, being labelled with an illness never really helped me. It never really helped me understand myself. We're going to talk about therapy sort of in a couple of weeks. And certainly understanding my sexuality wasn't really helped by labelling myself as something. So I still consider myself as Rachel, and that is how it is. And I don't, when people ask me about whether I'm gay or not, I guess I kind of am, but I don't necessarily feel the need to say that. I don't necessarily feel the need to be involved in things that that connect me to that community. And maybe in that way I'm quite self-assured in that. In terms of coming out and talking to people about it, it was very difficult. In my first relationship, I found it really, really hard, to be honest, with the people around me. And eventually it became easier. And I actually remember telling some of my close friends about my relationship with a woman a number of years ago, and I was like so terrified they were going to judge me. I was so scared that they were going to think things of me, and they were just so happy for me and so glad that I was happy, and that was all that mattered. And that taught me a lot. My parents are okay with it, to be honest. I mean, I know they find it difficult, and I know they don't like to think about it too much, but mainly they think about my happiness. It isn't something I feel the need to rub in other people's faces. I am just me, and I'm honest about it, but it isn't something I feel I need to talk about all the time. I think it's a topic that does need talking about, and that's why I'm making this video. I want people to be able to talk to me, and actually feel that I'm quite blessed that a number of people have approached me, written to me, spoken to me about their own sexuality, something that they can't necessarily accept themselves, something they're certainly not in a place to be able to tell people, but they've been able to tell me. And I think sometimes that's the first step, and at the end of the day, it is still difficult. I mean, I still think about what people might be thinking, and whilst for the most part I don't really care, I do think about people knowing, and that going, having that discussion with my parents, because I know it's something my parents, whilst they accept, isn't necessarily something they want to be talking about with everybody about. So they don't necessarily want somebody coming up to me and being like, oh, we saw your daughter. And I don't really want them put in that position. I want them to be able to say to me, this is how comfortable we are with this situation, and we are comfortable with it, but we don't need the whole world to know. And I have to respect them for that, and I have to appreciate them for that. Family, I guess some people don't feel able to tell their family, but they feel able to tell their friends. What I do have to say out of all of this is that just because you may be gay or not, or whatever, it doesn't mean, or even if you don't know, it doesn't mean you have to tell everybody about it. It doesn't mean you have anything to be ashamed of either. It doesn't mean that you can't talk about it. You have to maybe build enough confidence in yourself to talk to somebody, and it doesn't matter who that somebody is, but you have somebody. So if people talk to me, that's their first step. That their first step is being able to have a conversation with me, and if they get acceptance from that, they maybe feel more confident to accept in themselves, which means they can then talk to a friend, which means they can talk to somebody else, and then maybe their family. I also think it's something that you need to just allow to be sometimes. We often question ourselves, certainly people with eating disorders and mental health problems. We maybe question who we are, what we are, and this is why I think sexuality is so tied up into identity, that we feel we have to be something. And something that interested me recently when it was on television was when this young girl was introduced to lesbian women who were older than her. I think some of them were bisexual. And one of them said she was very active in kind of the gay life of where she lived. I think they were in Soho in London. And one of them said, I don't feel that need. I don't feel that need to be what I am. It's just because you're gay doesn't mean you have to do all the things that apparently gay people do, like go to gay bars and such. You can just be who you are. And I always find it funny because a friend told me about her partner who was kind of like, gay, counselling to a gay couple today. Well, why can't you just say couple? Why does it have to be gay couple? And I think that gay men who are in the community, who are also on television shows and such, has become a lot more common, whereas gay women, it isn't as much out there. There was a movie made, The Kids Were Alright, a couple of years ago, which focused on a lesbian couple. And it was sort of the first film in Hollywood that really kind of dealt with that issue in a kind of bigger scale. And I think movies like that need to be out there. I think it needs to be seen as something normal. I think it needs to be seen as something that's no different than anything else. Families are made up of lots of different relationships, a lot of different ways. That there isn't one way to have a family, and whilst my family's very traditional in the sense that I've got my mum and my dad who are still together, and there's me and my brother, families can be made up of all different things, and even if it's two women, if it's two men, if it's a man and a woman, it doesn't matter. And I think that what I've learned is that you learn to love, you fall in love with the person, and that's kind of the angle I come from. So if you're sat there worrying about whether you like girls or boys, or whether you should like boys or girls or boys, I think you need to just kind of let yourself be sometimes. I think you need to just feel comfortable enough in yourself that who you are is who you are. And you don't have to go out of your way to show that. Just be who you are. And who you are makes up your identity, but your identity doesn't have to be who you are, if that makes sense. You can be a number of different things, a number of different times, across a number of different situations, and that self doesn't have to be consistently the same. That self can shift and change, but who you are is who you are, and that's what you're going to learn through life is who you are, and that doesn't have to be a label, and it will come with some worries and insecurity, but being able to talk is a really important thing, and that's what I'd encourage you to do. I hope that's making sense, guys, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye.